Hello everyone, welcome to another draft class recap video. My name is Jay Fiedler. Today we're talking about the Miami Dolphins. Let's get started. Okay, so just to preface a little bit about the Dolphins, last season this team was the near consensus choice to be the worst team in the league. The 0-16 jokes were being made, and everybody thought that they would be picking number one overall in the draft this year. And it turns out that they won just enough games to play themselves out of that selection. And I don't think it mattered anyway, because even before the emergence of Joe Burrow at LSU last year, everybody thought that this was the tank for Tua season, and the Dolphins were working their way into the right spot to draft him. And it turns out, despite winning 5 games last year, they were still afforded the opportunity to do that, and that maybe because of the injury to Tua Tagovailoa. So I do want to give credit real quick before we get into the draft to their new head coach from last year, Brian Flores. Pretty good job of keeping a team together and keeping them competitive enough to still win games in this league, even when the writing was on the wall that there was no interest in competing in the 2019 season. And we can argue back and forth about, how general managers may or may not, ownership included, may or may not actually want to win that season or want to lose that season, because the argument is that nobody is there to lose. Everybody's there to prep and win football games. But when you trade away all of your valuable assets like Kenyon Drake, Laramie Tunsil, so on and so forth, you sort of glean into this idea that you're not really trying to set yourself up to win now. You're trying to set yourself up to win later. And in order to do that, you have to lose some games. And in order to acquire the kind of draft capital that they have here, they had to sacrifice a lot. So there's a whole another video / debate to be had about that, but I do want to give Brian Flores some credit for putting a competitive team together, especially later on in the season. So let's talk about the draft, because that's what we're here for. Things get started with round 1, pick number 5 overall, Tua Tagovailoa, quarterback from Alabama. I'm excited about this guy. He was lighting up the college world the last few years up until the injury, so there is the medical concerns. There was a lot of rumors churning in the mill prior to the draft and the days leading up to it that he could fall in this draft because of those medical red flags. But the one anecdote that I shared on the VOR podcast that we did prior to the draft was that I was for sure certain that Tua was a lock to be picked at 5 or 6 to the Dolphins or the Chargers. More so to the Dolphins, because prior to the COVID-19 lockdown where team facilities shut down, they were trying like hell to get him on a plane to get him to Miami to visit with him. And the fact that they tried so hard to do that was enough of an indicator to me that they were all in on this pick. They just had to do some homework. So I don't think that they're worried about the medicals at all. And even if they are, I think you take the gamble, because I think he could be something special. Left-handed quarterbacks are not exactly the greatest success story in this league. There's only been a few of them: Steve Young, Michael Vick, Mark Brunell. I'm probably missing one. But I think it's worth taking a shot, and I think he's absolutely going to be good in this league. So he finishes his college career 474 completions, 7,442 yards, 87 touchdowns. He had 40-some touchdowns in 2018. That is absurd. And he was well on his way to way more last year. When he got injured, he had 33. 2018 consensus All-American, Maxwell Award winner, SEC Offensive Player of the Year, Walter Camp Player of the Year in 2018. Last year, 2019, he was first in the SEC in completion percentage with 69. Nice. Oh no, I'm sorry, that was 2018. In 2019, he was 71%, but I don't think he met the minimum threshold to qualify for a ranking because of the injury. He only had a X number of passing attempts. But last year he was 5th in the SEC in passing yards, 2,840 for the 2019 season. I think he's immediately the best quarterback in the room on this team now. Ryan Fitzpatrick is just at the end of his career. I don't really think there's much more you can get out of him. And Josh Rosen is just one of the sadder stories of the NFL draft, where you get picked 10th overall, you get traded the next year, and you can't break through on a new team that just happens to be trying to tank the season because they're getting rid of all of the assets around you. So Josh Rosen has just had an unfortunate adventure in his NFL career, and I hope he gets at least one more opportunity, because I think the hand that he dealt coming into this league and since has just been very shitty. Moving on, round 1, pick 18, Austin Jackson, offensive tackle from USC. I believe at this point, and I don't remember exactly, but there were still many offensive tackles left on the board, and if this pick kind of felt like, well, we need one, all the top ones are gone, Tristan Wirfs, etc., we might as well just get one. And that's kind of how it kind of feels like that's how they managed this pick. Like, they could have maybe traded back and got Austin Jackson still a little bit later. But as I've always said, if you really like somebody, go get them. Just do what you got to do. Don't play games. So, they get the tackle potentially to replace Laramie Tunsil. Moving on, their third pick in the first round, pick 30, Noah Igbenogany, corner from Auburn. Pretty interesting player, 92 tackles, 1 interception, and 18 passes defended for his college career. Definitely one of the better corners in the draft. Would I have picked him in the first round? It's debatable. I think by the time you get to pick 28 and then picks 28 through 32, they're pretty interchangeable when it comes to that sort of grouping with the next batch of picks in the second round between pick 33 and probably pick 45. So I think really it's still a first round pick, but it's like a tier 3 first round pick, if you will. And I think it's actually an impressive strategy, because you take, they've shored up the corner position in the offseason with free agency, and they were just like, you know what, we're going to make this position just one of our best features, and good luck passing against us. So I appreciate the hustle. Round 2, pick 39, Robert Hunt, guard from Louisiana Lafayette. This was one of the My Guys I had in the My Guy episode, and somebody who ascended pretty late in the process. I didn't hear about him until a couple weeks before the draft, but he got some attention and it paid off. He moved up draft boards. I thought he could be this year's Titus Howard, just based on the number of team visits alone, and that could propel him into the first round, but he came just a bit short, about 7 picks too short. Round 2, pick 56, Raekwon Davis, defensive tackle from Alabama. Was potentially a first-round pick last year, but decided to go back for his senior season at Alabama. Didn't quite work out for him like it did for Derek Brown, who ended up going top 10. Raekwon only just gets into the second round here. Decent career at Alabama, 175 tackles, 11.5 sacks. He'll be a formidable run stopper and interior pass rusher for the Dolphins. Moving on to round 3, pick 70, Brandon Jones, safety from Texas. 232 tackles, 3 interceptions, 7 passes defended during his tenure with the Longhorns. He was 4th in the Big 12 in tackles last year with 64. Again, just solidifying that secondary, taking a strength and making it way stronger. Kudos to them for doing that. Round 4, pick 111, Solomon Kinley, guard from Georgia. I said in my last video that from now on I'm going to point out players that I'm absolutely jealous of that my team did not get, and Kinley's the guy. I'm just amazed that he fell to 111 in the draft. That's kind of a steal in my opinion. I thought he was one of the better guards, but even the experts don't agree with me. I mean, of course they don't. I'm not one of the experts. I'm just some Yahoo with a YouTube channel. So, and I was kind of surprised. I thought more people would be on board with Kinley, but I guess we'll see. Moving on to round 5, pick 154, Jason Strowbridge. I have him as an edge rusher from North Carolina, but he's more of a defensive tackle or interior offensive line, whatever you want to call it, 3-5 technique, whatever. Versatility is probably the best word to use when describing it. 123 tackles, 10.5 sacks during his tenure with the Tar Heels. Also in round 5, pick 164, Curtis Weaver, edge rusher from Boise State, one of the more decorated late round picks in this draft, 2019 Midwestern Conference Player of the Year, first in the Midwestern Conference with tackles for losses with a total of 20, also good enough for 7th in the NCAA, and he was first in the Mountain West Conference in sacks with 13.5. Interesting prospect, definitely questionable in terms of competition faced or level of competition faced, so that will be an interesting how they develop him in that process, because they do need to re-solidify their edge presence going forward. Next, round 6, pick 185, Blake Ferguson, long snapper from LSU. If you're gonna take special teams positions, this is where you need to be doing it, the 6th and 7th round. And then finally, round 7, 246, a Hail Mary pick with Malcolm Perry, the wide receiver / quarterback / running back from Navy. I just put wide receiver because the website that I used to pull up his stats had that listed. Quarterback, running back, he's probably a running back. Let's not even try to set expectations that he's going to be throwing passes at the next level. Finished his career with 614 carries, 4,359 yards, 40 touchdowns at Navy. 22 receptions, 470 yards, 3 touchdowns, the 2019 AAC Offensive Player of the Year. And he was first in the AAC with rushing yards with 2017 last season. So, of course, that is the Navy effect coming into play there with his stats. And, despite him being quarterback, wide receiver, running back, he's probably a running back at the next level. I don't think he's really going to solidify any type of work at any other position. But who knows? Weirder things have happened. So that is the 2020 NFL draft for the Miami Dolphins. Top to bottom, pretty good. Not a fan of some picks just because of positional value, but I am actually pretty happy with the haul overall, as if I were a Dolphins fan anyway. And plus, Tom Brady's out of the division too, so that gives you a little bit more hope for this year. I mean, face it, you punted last season, the entirety of the season, if we could say that. But I think brighter days are ahead for this franchise, and I do believe Tua Tagovailoa is the future of this franchise. I'm very excited to see him play at the next level. And kudos for picking the number 1 jersey. I wouldn't have done that. He is a braver man than I am. All right, that is it for this episode. Thank you very much for watching, and I'll see you in the next one.